Today we're taking a look at 5 hidden gem third-person shooters for the PS2. Games I recently played and thought, wow, why doesn't anyone talk about these? Ghost in the Shell was one of my first anime and remains one of my favorites. Despite that, it took me too long to play the PS2 game, which is a shame because it's surprisingly really good. The story follows an original plot with lots of twists and turns. There's tons of intrigue and everything you'd expect from a cyberpunk story. You swap between Motoko and Bato, and what's really cool is the gameplay changes too. Motoko can do a ton of parkour, which really opens up the levels. Meanwhile, Bato is stronger and has explosives. I especially like the level design because although Mirror's Edge is great, I feel like highlighting places you can jump to with red paint, it just kinda takes me out of it. In this game though, the levels look like normal places, so it's really up to you to look around and think, okay, how do I get up there? You can also mindjack enemies and use some stealth. Unfortunately, you never play as a Tachikomo, but they do make several appearances.
Mr. Bato! Where are the terrorists? Are they hiding?
They're all gone.
See? I told you we should have hurried up and gotten here sooner! What? It wasn't my fault! It's because you were being stingy with the grenades!
Also, the voice acting is the original cast, which is just awesome. They did a really good job too. This isn't a case where they phoned it in for a paycheck. The VO is as good as the show and really ups the game's production value. Just an all-around fun game that has no business being as good as it is.
Let's rock and roll.
Freedom Fighters, one of those special games from my childhood. Just about the entire game is burned into my brain. I've probably finished it 8 or 10 times by now, and for good reason. It's exceptional even today. It takes place in an alternative history where the CCP developed the nuclear bomb first. They end up invading the US while you're a plumber working in New York City. Your brother gets captured, and from there, you grow a resistance group to take him on. It's got this neat squad mechanic system where you give simple commands to followers. It's a bit like Pikmin mixed with Red Dawn. You can tell them to follow you, stay where they are, go forward and attack, nothing too complicated. But what's really great is their AI. They'll take cover, flank, and just all around act kinda like humans would. It gives the game a sense of life. It's also one of the first games to use ragdoll physics, and I had a ton of fun with it as a kid, blowing guys up and watching them fly off. There's also a bunch of little touches, like your character will get slowly dirtier and more ragged as the story goes on. Makes you feel like it's a struggle. Before I forget, I need to mention the level system, because I almost never see this in games. So usually you'll start out by being able to choose between 3 levels, but you can run around to any of them at any time, and they affect each other. So if you blow up a helipad in one area, there won't be a helicopter in the other. Or if you blow up a bridge that's funneling in troops, there'll be less enemies in another area. It's so awesome, and the only other games I've seen do this are the SOCOM series and Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain. But yeah, Freedom Fighters, it's got a little more recognition as time's gone on, but I still wanted to include it. It's just that good. Like Freedom Fighters, Siphon Filter has a special place in my heart, but only the first 3 games, and maybe Omega Strain. This is the first time I've played Dark Mirror, and I haven't played Logan Shadow, so I'll just be talking about Dark Mirror for now. Originally, these were PSP games, but have since been ported to the PS2, and the transition actually worked out nicely. If I didn't tell you, I don't think most people would even know. It has such a nice clean look, it's aged really beautifully. It has modernized controls too, and is super easy to pick up and play. The story follows the usual cast of characters, Gabe Logan, Leon Zing, and company, but they've replaced Logan's voice actor.
Listen to me. I need to get this power back on.
Normally, I wouldn't mind too much, but man, Logan's voice was iconic and really brought the character to life. It's not until seeing someone else do it that I've really come to appreciate Logan's character in the first 3 games.
Leon, I'm on my way to the park. Romer is going to trigger the mean viral device whether or not the government meets his demands.
I'm already on it.
The smaller viral bombs are hidden throughout the park. Benton, what's going on?
He's just not the same without the voice. But worse than that, the new VO is just doing a bad Logan impression from the first games. I wish the director had the VO do something different. I don't know, something unique or original. Not a huge deal, but I felt it was worth mentioning. Speaking of VO, Nolan North is all over this game. He voices almost every NPC from what I can tell. It's to the point you'll have these instances where he's basically talking to himself in different accents. It's kind of hilarious.
Don't set it up next to the truck! No time to move it! Someone's coming!
The game itself is great though. Once you start playing, you'll realize, oh, this level design follows the first 3 games really faithfully. In its heart, it's a true continuation of the series. Now, if only we could get a modern sequel.
I'm going to check on the patrols. Stay alert. I want this aircraft kept secured.
Yes, sir. Roger that.
We all know about Resident Evil 4, and Cold Fear isn't as good, sure, but it's still good and worth checking out, especially for its unique setting. Most of the game takes place on a whaling ship during a storm. There's zombies, a zombie virus, Russians, the CIA. It's a fun rabbit hole, but I don't want to spoil the plot too much. As you can tell, it's got that now classic behind the camera perspective, but it also mixes in lots of static camera angles. It does a good job blending the old and new Resident Evil styles. It also looks phenomenal graphically. I mean, look at it. I was reading up on its development, and it's actually kind of a sad story. The programmers and designers made a unique system to make the ship physically roll, which would affect the gameplay. But it just never really came together. It never plays too huge of a part past the opening few hours. But it is unique, and if you're a fan of survival horror, you should absolutely check it out. I haven't played the PC version, but it is also on Steam, and it's got good reviews, so I'm just assuming that it runs really well. Anyway, I haven't finished it yet, but I have had a lot of fun the few hours I've put into it, so if you like survival horror, and especially those old Resident Evil style games, I think it's worth checking out.
Help me! Holy...
This is maybe my favorite third-person shooter on the PS2. I consider PsyOps the Mindgate Conspiracy a must-play. You play as Nick Scryer, an undercover agent trying to take down this evil corporation. They're trying to use mind powers, but you have your own mind powers, and it's basically like a superhero game. It's incredibly silly at times, but it always plays it straight. I get the sense you're supposed to take the story seriously, which I think just adds to the humor.
They even see.
It's also very much a midway game, lots of fun gore. As you go through, you'll unlock your own mind powers. One of them lets you refill your psi gauge by popping guys' heads, which is just super satisfying. I always end up using the telekinesis the most though. It was one of the first games to combine physics into the gameplay, which even today, I don't really see ever, which is a shame. An example would be like, sometimes you need to cross a gap. Okay, so what do? Well, how about you stand on a wooden pallet and levitate it so that you can fly? It really rewards ingenuity and out-of-the-box thinking. You can pick guys up and shoot them, slam them into walls, slam walls into them, drop them off ledges, mind control them, then shoot their teammates, and then jump off a ledge yourself. There's so much variety. And even today, I'm surprised this game never caught on. I think you could release it today with new marketing, maybe tone down the try-hard edginess of it, and I bet it'd sell great as an indie game or a discount title. Put this game in front of anyone who likes action games, and I guarantee you'll be having a blast within 20 minutes. Have a hidden gem you want people to know about? Leave a comment letting me know what game and why. Are you going to play any of these games, or have you already? I'm curious to hear about it. Thanks a bunch for watching. See you next time.
That's gotta hurt. Those guys will never get ahead with that job. Sorry.